with a call for this June 23rd call of the Drought Monitoring Work Group. And Brian will be giving the National Weather Service New Mexico meteorological drought status and weather climate outlook. Are you ready to go, Brian? Just go through the slides and just tell us which slide you're on, this next slide or something like that, and then we can follow. That'd be great.
All right, sounds good.
Thanks.
I'll go a little bit quicker since we're already at quarter past. Well, I guess, everyone's noticed we've had a lot more rain the past several weeks. And so here on the second slide, this was the June precipitation. So after a really good May, we also started things out pretty good for June. The image in the lower right is the percent of normal, and we see lots of greens and blues, which is good. So more above normal precipitation as we start out June. The next slide for May 2015 just goes to show you, how much widespread above normal precipitation we had across the state here on the lower right. We don't usually see this around here. This was 233% of normal. It was the 8th wettest May on record, going back to the late 1800s. So many areas picking up quite a bit of precipitation, and the entire statewide average was almost an inch and a half above normal. On the next slide, we'll look at the CPC charts here, showing exactly where we were for the month of May. On the far right here, circled. And the last time we saw conditions this above normal was back in 1992. And before that, you had to go all the way back to 1941. And that was the big spike here earlier in the chart. And that is the record for the month of May. So impressive rainfall totals during the month of May. On the next slide, this should actually be May 2015, not April. And we're breaking out by climate division. So I put a red box around all the climate divisions that were well above normal. And some of these numbers we just don't see around here very often. Climate division 5, which is Central Valley, over 300% of normal from their recording station. For the calendar year, January through May, on the next slide, we're now at 161% of normal. And lots of folks across eastern New Mexico averaging anywhere from 5 to 10 inches of rain so far. 5 to 10 inches of precipitation for the year. And there are a few locations, if you look at the Cocoa Rods across Curry and Roosevelt counties, that picked up even more than that. There's a location north of Clovis, north of Texaco, that had almost 14 inches of rain in May and April. So very wet. Again, here on the chart, the far right shows where we're at for the calendar year. We're now the 9th wettest for the calendar year at 2.29 inches above normal. So again, you have to go back to about 2006 before you saw precipitation like this for the calendar year, and then again back to 1941, which is the record wettest year. The next slide showing the 2015 water year. So if we add a couple more months here, going back to October, we're now 129% above normal. And a few stations in central and eastern New Mexico, pushing 8, 10, 12 inches of precipitation for the water year. So a huge change from what we saw last year. Again, another look at this on the chart here to the far right. We're above normal. This is the first time for the water year since 2010. And it is the 22nd wettest. On the next slide, we have the 12-month precipitation for June 2014 to May 2015. We're now the 16th wettest. So these numbers are creeping up as we start removing some of these drier periods that we had prior, from the drought we were seeing in the long term. 24 months on the next slide, still above normal. The last time we were above normal for the 24-month period again was in 2010. For the 36-month period on the next slide, we finally start bringing in some of those drought years, and we're still dry for the 36-month period. And the circle here on the far right showing the below normal conditions. And on the bottom of that slide, we've got the 48-month and 60-month you go back 5 years, we're still 13th driest. But as we go through time, we're going to continue to improve those conditions with all this wet pattern that we've been seeing. So on the next slide is the NASA Sport land information system showing the relative soil moisture difference on May 20th. So this will be the difference as we went from April 20th to May 20th. All areas in green and blue are showing where the soil moisture values are improving, increasing moisture farther down into the soil. So May was definitely a good month, especially for Texas, Oklahoma. They essentially wiped out their drought this spring. On the next slide, this is the June 20th 1 month difference. So even if we go another month, we still see values improving. So the wet pattern continued across nearly the entire state as we went through June. Now here is the regional drought status on the next slide on June 18th. We continue to see improvement over much of New Mexico. And on that latest drought status report, they did remove some of the areas up along the Colorado border. Taking a closer look on the next slide at New Mexico, we're now down to 70% severe drought conditions across the state and 34% moderate to severe. Now, the weather pattern that we're expecting over the next week or so is going to continue to deliver more precipitation to this area. So we may see more changes. On the next slide, this is New Mexico drought 3-month change. So on the lower right, this is where we were in the middle of March. So improvement in just about every area except for the Southwest. Some of those counties have missed out, again, like we've mentioned before, have some of the more active precipitation patterns that have moved across most of central and eastern New Mexico. So the last time the total drought coverage was less than 51% across New Mexico, that including the light yellow, was back in 2010. So all the numbers are lining up from what we've seen in some of those previous charts. On the next slide, this is just the transition to the weather and climate outlook. And of course, this isn't going to loop because you've got a PDF here, but these are the 3-month weekly SSTs. So the bottom right image is the last 4 weeks, and this is what we'll look at here today. Since this is just looking at the sea surface temperature anomaly over the last 4 weeks, and you can see in this Niño 1 and 2 region, just off the coast of South America, the values are really impressive, on the order of 2 to 2.5 Celsius above climatology. And this is looking more like a typical Eastern Pacific El Niño pattern. On the next slide, we're breaking down the sea surface temperature anomalies by region. So here's this Niño 1 and 2 at 2.6. So that's that area that had the dark red shading. But really most of the regions actually approaching 1.5 Celsius. On the next slide, this is the forecaster and model consensus. So we continue to support El Niño conditions, and in fact, this first 3-month period on the upper left is very close to 100%. It's actually 99%. So we could say there's a 95, almost 100% chance of El Niño conditions to continue through the summer. And even as we go through autumn, it looks like a near 90% chance. So this is significant for us, as it could result in some continued wet conditions across our area. And we'll show that here in just a minute. On the next slide, we have the model consensus from CPC and IRI showing values continuing to increase. So this is the Niño 3-4 sea surface temperature anomaly. And we usually take a look at this kind of the pink solid line is sort of running through the middle of the chart. And it is supporting, as we go into the fall season, some moderate El Niño conditions possibly to develop. On the next slide, this is the July 2015 precipitation outlook. So we've seen this on several of the outlooks that we've shown over the past few months, above normal precipitation chances favoring much of New Mexico and the Intermountain West. And of course, that, on the next slide, the July 2015 temperature outlook, below normal across a vast majority of the Great Plains and the Front Range. It doesn't feel like it lately since we've seen temperatures over 100 the last couple days here in Albuquerque, but actually the Eastern Plains haven't been too bad. If we go to the next slide, looking at the remainder of the summer, July through September, so this would be our monsoon period. And again, we're favoring above normal precipitation chances for just about the entire Southern Rockies, the Intermountain West, and the Great Plains. And again, on the next slide, the temperature outlook showing below normal temperature across that same area. And this is an updated product for the fall and the winter. And these on the next slide here, so September, November, really these increased quite a bit on the latest release on June 18th. I don't remember the last time I saw 50% above normal precipitation chances across this area. And then even as we go into December through February on the right, just about the entire Gulf Coast and Texas and southern New Mexico favoring above normal precipitation. So this is really good news for us. And the seasonal outlook, of course, follows on the next slide with conditions expected to improve all the way westward into central Arizona. So that's all we have here for our briefing. And instead of going to the discussion graphic, I figured we could send it back and hear from the rest of the folks, Dave, before we get into the actual drought talk.
That sounds good.
That sounds okay.
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan.
Okay, sorry about that technical glitch.
Well, things happen. We're flexible. All right. Thanks, Brian, for getting that going. And let me forward this email a second here. So I think Raymond, let's go ahead go through the Bureau of Reclamation Reservoir Status Report with Raymond Abita.
Sure. I'll tell the Rio Grande. Petoro was 27,092 acre feet. Heron, 129,973. Alvado, 121,484. IBQ 123,022. Coach T 48,707. Let's see, Elson View was 361,349. And Caballo 993. On the Pecos, Santa Rosa 106,579 acre feet. Sumner 33,819. Brantley 72,382. And along 3,000. So, like I was just saying earlier today, that this spring has been wonderful for us. I can't remember the last time. It's been a few years now that the main stem and the trails has provided what we needed for everyone to run off to the spring. And look at this, we're going into July, and the main stem is still providing everything. It's meeting all the needs for the district, the species, just everything. It's been really, really nice. It's been a real nice relief. There's a fairly good spike come through that I think caused spine bombing for the silvery minnow, and it's just been good, really good. By this time, the last few years, we've been pretty much used up all our supplemental water, just trying to keep the Rio Grande wet from here to Elephant Butte. So, by this time, like I said, we used up almost everything, and everyone was already pretty well drained. The season already seems so long. But now it's just been maintaining on its own. It's been really nice. It's coming down slowly now. So we do expect, the flows to get a bit low. or at least lower than they have been in a few weeks. So but like I said, its runoff has been running clear since July, so that's been great. Same on the Pecos. We had a lot of inflow into Santa Rosa. In fact, CID called for a little bit of a block release, about 21,000 acre feet. So Santa Rosa started up yesterday morning. Sumner will start this morning. And that'll make a little more room there in Santa Rosa. They had a bit of water in there. And they just make a little buffer for there, and then just a little buffer in Sumner. Then we'll head down to Bradley. And of course, Bradley still has some of the floodwaters from the big rains from last summer or beginning of fall. And they'll be moving that down to Red Bluff here after the July weekend. So they got a bit of water in there to get rid of, about 37,000 acre feet. So otherwise, floods have been good there on the Bay Coast too. We've been real fortunate. Like I said, we haven't used any of our stored water yet. We used the lawn pumps for just a little while, but now we've had some bypass water available for us. We use that, and FSID's had full allotments in the last few weeks. So life is good with this kind of a snowpack and runoff. I mean, it's been a real relief for us water managers. It's been a nice break. The last few years have been really tough. I just hope, this forecast we just saw gives a lot of hope, and hopefully this will keep up for a little while. So, we'll take it. That's all I have.
Great, thanks, Raymond. Any questions for Raymond?
Great, thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Okay, I think I emailed Chris, and he said he's out in the field today. He's not going to be able to make the call, so let's see if let's go over to USGS. Is Anne Marie on the line?
I'm Susan. I'm taking Anne Marie's place for this meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. How about other folks?
Yeah, just fine.
Okay.
Okay. 21 of the New Mexico river basins are used in this analysis. This is the New Mexico stream flow conditions for the 2015 water year. And the mid-range is going to be defined as 90 to 90% of the historical average for a basin. Below average is less than 90% of historic flow, and above average is defined as greater than 100% of the historic average for any particular station. 11 of the 21 stations used in the analysis were above average flow for the water year through May, with the high being at Niño Creek near Cimarron, and that was at 98% of average. The Mora River was low at about 47% of the historical average, and the median annual average was about 86% of the historical average in the 21 days of this report. And we did have a table, but I'm sure after the meeting you can go back and look at the table. So looking at the runoff conditions by basin, for the San Juan River Basin, the Anomalies River was at 81% of average. The Upper Rio Grande tributaries from the Rio Pueblo de Taos to the Santa Cruz River was between 66 and 95% of average. The Jemez River was at 74% of average. The Upper Rio Grande main stem, the Rio Grande at the Taos Junction Bridge was at 90% of average. And for the Canadian River Basin, the tributaries in Halifax County, which are the Vermejo River, Coneo Creek, and Rayado Creek, those are between 75 and 498% of average. So Coneo Creek was up from 126% in March, which is, I believe, the last time that Anne-Marie presented values. Tributaries of Mora County, the Mora River and the Coyote Creek were between 47 and 99% of average. And these values were also up from March from 41% for the Mora River and 19% for the Coyote Creek. And the main stem, the Canadian River, was about 61% of the historic average. The upper Pecos in San Miguel County, which is the Pecos River and Pecos and Guaynas Creek in Montezuma, was at 84 and 108% of average. The lower Pecos in Otero and Eddy counties have stream flow conditions that range from 82% to 41% of average. And the Gila Basin in Grant County, which are the Mogollon Creek at 84% of average and the Gila River at Red Rock, which is at 86% of average. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, if you could, if you have a graphic, can you send it to Brian after the call? That would be much appreciated.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? All right. So let's move on to the New Mexico Office of the State Engineer.
Hi, Dave. This is Molly.
Hi, Molly.
So since I guess we don't have our presentation, we'll put it on the Drought Task Force website along with everybody else's after the phone call.
Yeah, that sounds fine.
Okay.
Do you have any other updates? I think we had a tentative date for the task force. Any updates?
No, I have not gotten any confirmation on that at all. So I did just go and check before the meeting, but the state engineer's assistant is out. So I'll have to get back with you on that.
Okay. Yeah, just checking.
I'm just trying to let you know way ahead of time, but
Yeah, I know. Okay, so we'll get that circulated out, that PowerPoint after the call, and then you can take a look at that. Any questions for Molly while she's on? All right. So okay, let's move on to the next area. Department of Agriculture. Is Les or Ryan on the call?
Hi, Dave. This is Les.
Hey, Les.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for jumping in on the call.
You bet. I didn't send any formal report. It's kind of what everybody's been saying. It's conditions are pretty good. There's driving around the state, seeing all the green grass for the last few weeks this time of year is just it's very refreshing, and we haven't seen it in a long time. There's some areas that I haven't seen look this good in probably 10 years. So range conditions are certainly better than they have been over the past several years. There's a handful of wildfires burning in the forest that seem to not be due to the weather conditions. They're not getting extremely large and out of control. They're probably get some resource benefit from some of these fires. There haven't been anything large enough to require the kind of an emergency movement of livestock. So it's been a very positive year. On the irrigation front, of course, EBID's water delivery, they're at an 8-inch allotment for the year, subject to change, depending on how the monsoons turn out, which is looking favorable. So hopefully they'll get a little more water than they were planning. It's certainly still way below the the full allotment of 3 acre feet. It's been a lot of years since that's happened, and it's going to take a lot of years before they can ever get back to that. So that's certainly an ongoing long-term drought impact that's not going to go away anytime soon. But it's seeing the green grass around the state certainly makes everyone happy. There's fat cows. There's not as many as we had 5 years ago, but of course, due to cattle prices, it's hard for folks to restock. So, but things are pretty positive, and that's about all I have. If anybody has any questions, I'll try and answer them though.
Any questions for Les? All right. Well, very good. Thanks, Les. And if you have any, yeah. So if you have any reports, just go ahead and forward them out, or once you forward them to Brian. I'm currently out of the office. It's a little hard for me to get everything sent out, but I can handle. But Brian probably be easier right at these next few days. So thank you. All right. Yeah. Thanks, Les. Susan, the forestry.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
I
Susan.
can give you a summary and
Great.
something written out later. Right. Okay, so we've had 100. Now these are statistical fires, meaning they're on state and private lands. So far this calendar year, we've had 165 fires affecting 8,597 acres for all lands, and this number isn't as dependable on accuracy because it comes to us through other channels. But the number I have for that is 232 fires affecting 13,311 acres. And as Les said, the conditions have allowed fire managers to use natural fire starts for resource benefit. So that's something really good, accomplishing multiple objectives that we wanted to not been able to do for a while. As far as firefighting resources, we're pretty much up to where we want to be as far as having resources available in the Southwest. At the national level, we're at planning level 3, meaning that resources are starting to be called up across the country. The state in Mexico is poised to send out people as needed, but right now people are kind of coming into this area more than us sending people out. Although we have enough people that we can do that if we need to. For the fire forecast for the Southwest, below normal significant fire potential is anticipated over much of New Mexico and into West Texas in June, and moving up to normal for the remainder of the outlook period, which is July and August through September. In the far southwestern New Mexico, it's above normal significant wildfire potential for June and July. Lightning activity is going to ramp up this month as hotter temperatures interact with the moisture sources, and this will have the most impact across the mid and lower elevations of western and southern Arizona into far southwestern New Mexico, as far as significant fire potential anyway. And we therefore expect above normal fire potential for these areas until the monsoon kicks in. And overall, the later than usual onset of monsoon season that's anticipated will allow significant fire potential to linger into July west of the divide, and maybe even a little longer. And then with the lower level moisture that we expect to eventually come in, getting entrenched west of the divide, that'll lower significant fire potential. For the 7-day potential, the report said moderate risk conditions will likely peak through the first half of next week, with fire potential still lagging a bit due to the abundant moisture this spring, and it'll creep quickly into early next week with all the rain that we've gotten. The mosaic of fine herbaceous field conditions will develop that'll largely drive the day-to-day fire potential. So I'll put this together nice and and send it out to you to distribute to the group later today.
Great, thanks, Susan. Any questions for Susan? Okay. Well, much appreciated. All right. I forgot to do a roll call, so I don't know if Joy Lynn or Emelita is on the call today. Either of you on? Didn't think so. All right. As in previous months, we'll try to get some information on declarations or any changes in that status. All right. So let's move to a discussion about the drought monitor. Brian gave an excellent overview of where we are right now and last few months, and going all the way back to 5 years, and seeing a lot of improvements, restoration of hydrologic and meteorological status here. So we've got a lot of changes in the east, but I'm looking at the June 16th status map, the drought monitor map. So if folks want to look at that, trying to see what slide that is.
Okay, that should be on the very last page of the PDF.
Yeah, toward the last page. So we still have areas. We've got a band of D0 in the area on the east side, but then if you move kind of west of the Rio Grande, we've got areas of D1 and D2. One area that I thought, looking at the last 2 months, is I know they had last couple rains in Sierra County have been quite heavy, and then also in northern Doñana. So that area. Is anybody from the Weather Service office in Santa Teresa on the call? Didn't think so. But that area, that corner, I don't want to go too far in to southwest, because I think they're still fairly dry in the far southwest. But moving over toward Doñana Sierra, even parts of that whole area there, I think maybe want to look at that a little more. Any other areas from the Weather Service perspective?
Yeah, I think I agree with your comments there. I mean, that's not our area, but just from what we've seen on the 30-day, and then even if you go back to the 90-day precipitation, it's been above normal down there for quite some time now. So
Yeah.
I agree with your comments.
Maybe even part of Luna County as well. But how about up in Cibola, McKinley, San Juan? What are your thoughts of?
That was going to be my next point. I think the divide looks okay. I wonder about that area in the San Juan of New Mexico, because you look at Chama precipitation, they've had upwards of 10 inches in the last 2 months. So,
Okay.
Long term, yeah, there's still concerns, but in the short term, they're greening up, and people are saying the grass is getting nice and tall. So I'm not sure about moderate drought up there. I would think at this point it's just abnormally dry.
Yeah, so we may want to knock out that knob there.
Yeah, that little appendage there over
Rio
Rio
Arriba,
Arriba County.
and maybe even parts
And then
of
we still,
Sandoval.
yeah. And then we still have this thing there east of the Sacramento Mountains.
Right. I think there's a lack of data. Go ahead. Somebody chimed in.
Yeah, and this is Richard from Southern Region Weather Service. I was looking at the 16 anomaly map. I was thinking about maybe, say, roughly from Stevenson County eastward to Albuquerque area, roughly, everything north of there is still 1 category improvement.
Yeah, yeah. No, I see that. So let's start looking at eroding some of our impacts, maybe even getting some of the D0 out. I know that was kept in somewhat for the storage and the agricultural impacts, so it's more of a long-term. But I think looking at, it's hard to put in context. We haven't really seen the impacts of the El Nino yet, because that's going to be later in the year. But the short term has really been heavily, or maybe weighing a little more into that. What do you guys think?
How about this? There is a 1 category improvement to the D2 and the D1.
Yeah.
That way D2 becomes D1, D1 becomes D0. We still have a rather larger D0 to maybe reflect the longer term stuff. But we get rid of the D2. I think it'd be really hard for us to see severe drought right now anywhere in New Mexico.
Yeah. No, I think.
The need to see what kind of north for us. I guess the question then is, do we keep the D2 as it gets to north of Macomb County?
That's a good question. What do you think, Brian?
Northwest. How about northwest Macomb County, Albuquerque, northwest of that line? Just 1 category improvement to D2 and the D1.
Yeah.
Yeah, Victor, I can't really say nay on that either.
No, it looks reasonable to me.
So in essence, we're removing all severe drought from New Mexico. First time since.
Not like 2010. I think it's November.
Yeah, I purposely left the end of that question blank, Brian. Hope you can make that up, but definitely something for y'all to, I guess, publicize or advertise in the weeks ahead.
Yeah, I'm a little hesitant about that area from like Gallup down to Reserve, just because they've really missed out on a lot of the event.
Yeah,
but they're gonna get it this week. So that would be my only area to hesitate on. Still that kind of west central southwest little portion.
Yeah, I drove in from south of Gallup to Zuni and down through El Moro late last week, and there was certainly, the last time I drove by there was last year, and it seemed like there was more. It wasn't quite green as it was more of, if you go toward on that road that goes from I-40 to Los Lunas, that was pretty green compared. I've got photographs before and after, like from last year and this year, similar to the Weather Service's. I don't know who takes the photos there, but it wasn't as green down that area by Zuni. There was still a lot. You can see recovery, but it wasn't quite. I wouldn't quite say it's green, but I don't know if I would say if it's in the D2 though. That's my thing. And I don't know. And then I have to look more into the Catron, that area there. What does it look like on the Arizona side? I don't have the Arizona map. Do they see it also D2 on that side?
Yeah, the regional map here shows they still have quite a bit of D2.
Okay.
Along that area. And there's a lot of fire activity going on in there right now as well.
Right. So, Susan, do you have any information on that? I know that's mainly Forest Service, but what are your thoughts on that area, Reserve, Luna, up there?
I was just looking at the wildland fire information notice I got, and that's where we've got fires popping out there.
Yeah.
Haven't been down there lately.
Okay. Well, at least
It
for,
is. I'm looking here at Gallup. They've had about 150% of normal rainfall so far this year.
yeah.
So I would say worst case scenario, you might want to keep to a small area G2 perhaps in northwest Catherick County.
Okay.
That's the only question I would have. We leave that, just remove G2 everywhere north of there. We leave small sliver of G2 in northwest Catherick County.
Yeah.
That's fine with us here at the Weather Service.
Okay.
What, leave G2?
Yep, just for that Catchin County area.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go with that.
I think Arizona D2, St. Brian, I think Arizona D2, Catherick County area northward can be removed also. Make both sides of the board consistent.
All right.
I'll mention that the Drought monitor offer.
Who's the author?
It's Rich Saker.
Oh, Rich. Okay.
You can follow I-40 from Flagstaff to about Gallup northward. That entire area of both states, north of I-40, along and north of I-40, has had roughly 200% plus normal rainfall for the past 2 days.
Yeah. No, I agree with her. That's what it says. Okay. So I think we've got some definite changes. We can pull back, get rid of a lot of the D2 area, and move back the D1 actually, and maybe more than half of the southwest. Some of the areas out in Hidalgo still are pretty dry because we're still monitoring dust on that area out by I-10. It hasn't had a lot of rain there. It's still a significant risk in terms of impacts to wind erosion. A lot of the water is evaporated in that area, so I want to keep the D1 in that Hidalgo. Any other edits for this week's drought monitor map? Okay, if not, then we can look at scheduling for next month, and then if there are any other comments that you can think of after the call, just go ahead and forward that out to the group, or any other tidbits of information.
If you don't mind, I'm just curious on the short-term forecast. I'm showing rain on some of the stuff I'm looking at. And what's the weather service say about that? Good chance of showers this week?
Yeah, there's going to be the heat's gradually going to taper off this week, and then we're really going to see a pattern change. The upper level high that's been over us is going to slide off to the east, allow some southeasterly moisture to move into the area, and then that high is going to kind of dissipate. We'll see a trough come down and drop several backdoor frontal boundaries into the northeast part of the state, and that's really going to gen up precipitation, especially north and east, where we're going to get back into a flash flood pattern as we get into Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday across most of north and eastern New Mexico, and then the high kind of redevelops back west of us, and it gives us northerly flow over the state. So that's going to push storms off the northern mountains down into the I-40 corridor as we go into the late weekend or early next week. So it's looking quite good.
Great.
Anything about Thursday, Friday-ish.
Oh, okay. It makes sense. Everyone's going to start cutting their second cutting hay, so that should bring in a lot of rain. It usually does.
Very wonderful.
All right, thank you.
Nice. And then one other comment here. So the issue with the GoTo meeting was an update to the Citrix software, and we're going to have to change the ID code for the webinar. So it won't make a difference for anyone getting on the call, except you'll notice that the link in the email will be different. So I'll provide everyone with the details of that, and just the same way, just click on the link and it'll come up for you. But it will be a different ID number now for the monthly Drought meetings.
Okay,
That'll
good.
be the only change. The conference call will still be the same.
Okay, take note, and thanks for the update. Very good. All right, so let's get our calendars out for July. And I think, what are you guys' thoughts on the last week of the month? Like 28? July 28th?
Sounds really good to me here at the Weather Service.
Anything, any conflicts, other water meetings or anything else on the 28th that prevent us from meeting? Okay, I don't hear anything. All right. So let's set our next drought monitoring work group call on July 28th, 10 a.m. Mountain.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
I thought at last meeting, you guys thought about maybe combining the drought monitoring work group meeting with the drought task force meeting. Are you still thinking that was a possibility, or?
Well, I think it's still up in the air. The task force. I think the draft time was the 31st. Is that right?
Right.
What are you guys' thoughts? Because I know it'd be nice to have. I guess the reason, my only reasoning for doing it before that is to get a sense, because not everybody's going to have a chance to attend the task force meeting. Is that correct? And I guess I'm not sure exactly where it's going to be yet, right? Is it going to be Santa Fe?
The last I heard, it would be in Santa Fe.
Okay.
I mean, it's just a thought. I mean, whatever you guys decide.
Uh-huh.
I was just kind of reminding.
Yeah. Do you guys want to meet that same week, or do you want to combine?
And I mean, I don't know that the 31st is, I have to talk to Chris.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and meet on the 28th, because that seems to be that'll be our dry run for our discussion, and anything that we want to bring forward. If we do get the task force meeting on the 31st, that'll give us a chance to discuss what we want to say. And Brian, are you? Go ahead.
Oh, that sounds good to us. Thanks.
Yeah. Brian, are you able to go, or were you able to free up your schedule, or not?
If it's on the 31st, I will not be able to attend.
Okay.
I'll be leaving the state. The 28th is perfectly fine for me for the drought meeting.
Okay.
But yeah, it still sounds like it's tentative, and we're only about a month away from that.
Right.
Just over a month away from July 31st. So I guess I'd like to see a little bit more movement between now and then before making a decision. But yeah, I already have scheduled leave during that period. Actually beginning the 30th. So.
Okay.
So for me, it'd be an issue. I don't know if we'd be able to find a representative from here to attend, because we're having a lot of staffing issues right now.
Okay, understand. All right. Well, at least for sure we can do the 28th, and then we'll get the date of the DTF meeting firmed up in the meantime. Alrighty. Anything else before we close down for the month?
Nope, sounds good.
Good. Okay.
That sounds good.
Well, thanks guys. Thanks for being flexible, and thanks Brian for working on the go-to. It worked out great, I think, without the go-to. So again, thanks for everyone who's in attendance, and I appreciate it. And we'll get out the PowerPoints, email those out later on today or this week.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Thank you.